welcome back to Harneet's amazing story. If you haven't watched the first episode, please go do so, or else my greatly enriched story will not make any sense. Well, probably it will because there's literally no plot, okay? Alright, so I'll give you a recap anyways. So basically, Harneet, our good friend, dropped off from a gondola. He fell, and now he only has skis, and he's in the middle of nowhere. And then he goes along skiing, right? And then he finds out he doesn't have any food, but he actually does have food in his backpack. And it's some ramen noodles, and he eats the ramen noodles, and he also eats the seasoning, which causes him to black out. And now we're at day 2, which is what we're going to talk about today. Soon after, I woke up from my fatal blackout from a packet of ramen seasoning. I packed up my extreme surplus of foodstuffs and went back skiing down the slope. The slope mellowed out even more, to somewhere around a 5 to 10 degree incline downwards. My speed slowed down to about 2 miles per hour. Still, it was extremely hard to ski down because of the steep incline and my very fast speed. I finally fell from all the pressure and landed hard on the snow. I actually fell on my back, so all 254 pounds of my body, plus the bonus of my skis, landed on my backpack. I would assume that the ramen and the water bottle inside my backpack were completely crushed. I would also assume there was a premium quality Bic lighter. Hello there, I'm gonna interrupt this broadcast for a short message. Buy all new premium quality Bic lighters in one color, Communist Red, that cost at a very affordable price of $2. Or $20 if you're a capitalist pig. And something flammable in there because my backpack caught on fire. Unable to get up since I usually can't even support my own body weight, I lie there in the snow, getting lightly roasted on the back. I prep myself to jump up by doing curl-ups over and over again. Sadly, my tremendous muscle strength isn't enough to carry my tremendous body weight of 254 pounds and the backpack. Eventually, maybe after 20 minutes, the flames didn't have any ramen left to burn through. Because of my extremely high IQ, I forgot that it's possible to take off my skis. So I did just that. Without my skis on, I unlocked my level 3 special ability to be able to roll around in the snow like a caterpillar. I rolled downhill to build up momentum. After cranking up the speed, I used my momentum to pop myself back up onto my feet. I hiked back up the slope to get my backpack and do an inventory check. Inside my backpack, I now had a pile of warm ashes, a broken Bic lighter, flammable liquid with water mixed in it. Very useful stuff. But unfortunately, the downside of receiving all this great stuff is that I had to give up all my food and water. I got back into my skis and continued to ski. After a couple of hours, my stomach began to grumble. But this time, I didn't have my premium grade ramen packets to save me. This meant I had to go forage for some consumables. So I took off my skis once again and went into the woods right next to the slope. In the woods, I scanned the area to find any food. For example, maybe some berries or maybe like an animal carcass. Unfortunately for me, there's nothing in the woods except miles and miles of pine trees. But trees can make their own food, no? Like photosynthesis. So therefore, the leaves have got to have some nutrition. I pick off a cluster of pine needles on a branch. I attempt to nibble on a needle, but it's near impossible to chew it off. So I shove more of the needle into my mouth and bite at the end of the needle. This causes the needle, now inside my mouth, to point upwards toward the roof of my mouth and slash it. It causes, thanks to my great judgmental skills, to cut the roof of my mouth. I instantly pull the needle out of my mouth and taste blood dripping from the roof of my mouth because of my amazing next level insight skills. I had no nutrition and instead I cut open the roof of my mouth. It actually hurt quite a bit, and the dripping of the blood was pretty annoying. I looked around once again and I heard "We Are the Champions" playing in my head because in the distance I saw a deer. I didn't know how I was gonna kill it, but I promised myself that by the end of the day, I would be eating a deer burger with a pretzel bun, caramelized onions, pickles, tomatoes, and extra ketchup. I traversed closer to the deer until I was about 20 feet away from it. I noticed that there was an incline between the deer and me. I thought of an amazing idea, so I walked back to where I took off my skis and carried them back to the location of the deer. Here was my great plan. I would put on the skis and use the incline to speed up, Using the sharp end of my skiing pole, I would hit the deer in the head, causing an insta-kill. At 40 feet away from the deer, I doubt it noticed me, so I began sliding down towards it. By the time I was maybe 10 feet away from it, I was going a very nice 20 miles per hour. I raised my ski pole and struck, and thanks to my great hand-eye coordination from playing thousands of hours of Wii Sports, I missed. Apparently the deer wasn't too happy with that. It rammed into me, nearly missing my chest with its antlers. I fell onto the snow-covered ground as it began to launch a barrage of attacks on me. It stomped on me with its hooves, crushing my chest. So I grabbed onto its body and tried to flip it over. I was successful in doing so, most likely because the deer and I weighed similarly. Benevolent Harneet weighing in at 254 pounds, while the deer was probably around 300 pounds. I pinned the deer on the ground and started bashing its head with my hand. It seemed like the deer wouldn't die so easily, so I rolled over with my level 6 caterpillar ability I previously mentioned, right, to pick up my ski pole. But in that time, the deer had gotten up and started bombarding me with attacks. I rolled into a ball like an armadillo to protect my vital organs. I saw a moment to strike when I noticed it was raising his right hoof for a heavy attack. Like a heavy smash attack, Super Smash Bros. I grabbed its leg to stop the attack and landed on the deer's body, suffocating him. With my newly acquired ski pole, I used a sharp end to bash against the deer's head. Blood began spilling out of its skull. Encouraged by this, I started bashing against its skull even more. This somehow caused a huge explosion of blood to squirt out of its skull. The blood sprayed all over my face, and a mist of pink matter, which I assumed to be brain tissue, wafted in the air. Hungry from a long journey, I opened my mouth wide like a pelican to try to consume the pink matter. It tasted exactly like the glorious deer burger I was planning to prepare and eat. After a couple of extra minutes of heavy bashing, I assumed the deer was now dead. So I strapped back into my skis, and as you might know, ski poles have little straps on the end of them that you can put on your hands, like you put on your hands so you don't lose them while you're skiing. So instead, using my extreme intellect, I attached the pole straps onto the deer's antlers to carry the deer's body like a reindeer carries Santa's presents. I grabbed my poles tightly and began to ski back towards the slope. Because of the deer's large size, its body got snagged on the trunks of the trees every so often. I began to speed up to a pretty fast 30 miles per hour when suddenly the deer's two back legs got caught on a trunk and ripped right off. I stopped immediately to pick them up. Those legs were a good 1.5 patty of deer burger. When I got the legs, I noticed that they were still loosely tied to the body by thin entrails. So I bit at them and slurped the entrails up like spaghetti. I picked up the legs and clutched them to my chest along with my ski poles and continued skiing. After skiing back to the slope, I was ready to claim my bounty of a deer burger. But because of my record high IQ levels, I forgot that I didn't have anything to cook the deer with. Although I did have a Bic lighter, all the precious juices that caused the fire to light were spilled all over my bag. So I decided to open my backpack and dump all the liquids onto the deer's body and also the ash as a seasoning. I picked up a rock on the ground and struck the deer's body. Surprisingly, it caused its body to light on fire. Flames engulfed the deer's body, burning out of control, so for the time being I used the deer's body as a campfire as I watched the sun set once again.